Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we're excited to welcome Amanda Freudenthal, the founder of Trusted HR Synergies. Amanda today is going to explore the shifts that are reshaping talent, technology, and HR operations. If you have a question, feel free to submit it in the chat, and hopefully she'll get to it at the end. And then also just a logistical standpoint, the recording and slide deck will be sent via email along with credits for those who are eligible for SHRM and HRCI. So those will be in that email as well. Amanda, feel free to take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Brian, Brianna, and Dina, and also Foundation Risk Partners and Corporate Synergies. Just to make sure, Brianna or Brian, if y'all can just let me know if you can still hear me and I'm coming through clearly.
Yep, perfect.
Oh, thank you. Great. Well, thank you again. I appreciate this opportunity. Sorry the in-person opportunity didn't pan out, but I appreciate the flexibility and opportunity to present here and potentially to a broader audience. So I'm honored to be here. The topics that I am going to cover, HR optimization, is probably something we're hearing about every day as an HR professional, just with technology and all kind of things that are changing. I know everyone is muted now. I do want this to be as interactive as possible. I do love to chat, but I don't want to chat at you directly all the whole time. So I will invite you on the next slide here. So if you be getting your phones ready, I am going to have you scan a QR code so that you can open a link to a survey and be interactive throughout. And so we'll go through some questions throughout. I do have a few case studies, time permitting. So I would love for everyone to, have your phone out, scan the QR code, and participate with some of the questions. As Brianna said, if you have any questions, please shoot them in the chat feature. We hope to get to them at the end. If not, I'm more than happy to connect afterwards with anyone who wants to connect or has any questions that I didn't address thoroughly. So with that being said, let's get started with our first survey question. So tell me when you can see. Oh, there we go. So you'll see today's agenda, but then in the bottom right corner is our QR code as well as a link, whichever you prefer. If you can just scan that QR code. And our first question, we have two questions just to get an idea of the audience we have today. So what industry are you in and what is the size of your company are our first two questions. So let me know. I'm flipping the slide here. I'm going to start presenting so that y'all can see. And again, if you need the QR code, I do have it popped up here. I have 18 of you in the session so far. Awesome. So it's just going to watch those stats start populating in. And then we will shift to the next question. So it looks like, oh, I'd love to know what other is. If you can put in other in the chat. If I don't have your industry listed, I apologize. There's too many. I didn't want to overwhelm you. But if you don't mind, if you listed other, if you can just type in the chat just so I get an idea kind of who's in our audience, that would be awesome. I see distribution. Thanks, Amy. Perfect, perfect. Retail. Ooh, that's a fun one. Manufacturing, very cool. Another distribution. Okay. Awesome. Confirm for me, please. You can see your next question. There we go. Oh, we got some good sizes in here. Awesome. Okay. So a lot of you are sitting in that, 100 plus, 100 to 1,000 number. So I think this is going to be beneficial, hopefully, because my focus really, the topic today is really focusing towards kind of those small to mid-size, but obviously those of you that are larger, and I too have been at larger organizations, this will also help you. So really that, the small to mid-size, and then some of the larger organizations will definitely tweak some of my content towards you. And if you have, again, questions, let me know. So I'm going to hold on the Mentimeter for now because that's we'll come back to that. So don't lose that QR code; it'll come back up. But let's talk about the trends that we're discussing. I'm going to cover 7 overall, as you see here. So kind of the overall HR landscape that we're seeing for 2026. AI, I know you're hearing about AI, and AI is so prevalent in our space now. It's it has a fear for it. It has a whole bunch of stuff we'll get to. Skills based is another aspect I feel like we're seeing, at least from my consultancy side, is do you have the right people in the right jobs, and how do we figure that? Employee experience and well being is obviously super important. Our overall like data and compliance, and so our technology and our HRIS systems. And then from some recent surveys, what have chief HR officers stated as their priorities and what are they focusing on? And then last but not least, hopefully you'll have some takeaways and maybe some action plans, knowing that majority, may have smaller or condensed HR teams. There's not a ton out there, but I hope to give you a nugget at least to take away and maybe have a win for your HR team or your organization. So starting with our first point here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you another question. On the Mentimeter, I'm going to go back and our next question here, I'm going to open up. This is just when you think of HR optimization, before I jump into what it is to me, tell me some words that come to mind. I see some up here. Awesome. AI already. Technology. Efficiency is a big one. Awesome. That is very true. Togetherness. Interesting. Culture. So I'll let those keep populating. And we can, definitely send these out too. But it's good to hear your feedback on what you think is important. Next, I'm going to be asking is how ready do you feel your HR team is for optimization, or do you feel that you're kind of in the decision-making process? Your process are pretty standard, like you can adapt quickly. Kind of how do you feel your team's readiness for HR optimization? So these are rankings, and you can rank each. Strongly agree, or strongly disagree. Excuse me. Anybody not seeing that one? I don't see answers coming through, so I want to double check. Collaboration, that's a good one. There you go. Okay. Okay, this is great. So I think it's definitely important to see where you think your team and your department fit now. And then once I cover the topics, I'm going to kind of come back to at least one of the questions and see if now that you've heard what I have to say about HR optimization, would you change your rating to one of these questions? So the next one is ranking your current. What do you think is a top priority for your current team? And what are you hearing from the leaders that you support? Automation, I heard, saw some folks said, streamlining. Oh, that's a big one. There you go. Employee experience, I think that's also always as an HR professional on our top of our minds. So just getting this take is going to be great, and then we're going to jump into those next top seven items. So interesting. This is mapping out. Oh, I flipped one for me. Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to let that keep going. I appreciate y'all's insight there. So again, the 7 topics, and each of these topics that we talk about, again, this one being our first, is going to build on the last. So by the end, I hope you do have a clear picture of what, the landscape could be. And hopefully, like I mentioned earlier, is having a concrete action plan, or at least one action. We have a ton on our plates. I don't want you to take away too much, but hopefully you'll get there, you'll get that. So the HR landscape for 2026, is how things are being done in HR now is being rewritten and optimized. And that is no longer optional, right? With just throwing AI in alone, and AI is not going to be our whole topic today, but just throwing AI in alone, it is no longer optional. If you're not on the AI bandwagon to some form or fashion, you're behind the curve already. When you talk about speed and getting things done quickly but efficiently, as a statistic here says, 7 out of 10 business leaders say their primary competitive strategy for the next 3 years is to be fast and nimble, not cheaper, not bigger, faster. Looking at a micro picture, since ChatGPT launched in November 2022, and I don't know about y'all, but when I saw that, I was like, gosh, I'm really already behind the curve because I didn't know it'd been around that long. But when ChatGPT launched in 2022, openings in the US declined 32%. And the fear continues that AI is taking over our jobs. I'm sure many of you hear that and maybe even feel it yourself, that AI is starting to take over, some of the jobs out there, right, wrong, or indifferent. But AI is beginning to structurally reshape where and how work gets done. Hiring, excuse me, hiring trends are one of the first places to show up, right? Um, so let me flip back, and one of those Mentimeter questions I asked you is, how many of you are using it today? Let's see, flip that one. Yeah, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. So right now, let me ask, where in your organization is AI? How are you using AI? Not even starting, not even considering. It got denied by leadership. That's a common one I hear. Or, wow, okay, we're even. Come on. Okay, so some of you are dabbing into it, some of you aren't. Okay, but there's probably some areas around it that could definitely be improved. So I definitely want to hit that and do see considerably or under 25%. And that's okay. It's no right, wrong, or indifferent. We do want to make sure that we're looking at it and determining, is it right for your organization? It's not going to be right for every organization, and you're going to have to put parameters in place. So I'll let y'all continue to do that. Thank you. Thank you for that. So for 88% of leaders say that accelerating how people, skills, and resources are orchestrated is extremely important. But of the 88%, guess how many are actually making progress toward that goal? It's less than 10, 7%. That's an 81-point gap. So that's telling us the urgency is real and execution is lagging. And I do think a lot of the execution is lack of understanding of AI tools that are out there. And quite frankly, there's so many of them, it's quite overwhelming. So for small to mid-sized companies, it is actually a competitive opportunity. If you think about it, and then some of y'all, they're in the larger organizations with 1,000 plus, you can attest to this, is larger enterprises, you have more bureaucracy to go through for approvals of different things. So small and to mid-size can make decisions faster. You can adopt new tools without, all that approval process and, every person in the room to be involved in it. It's just a smaller amount in a small to mid-sized company. And then how quickly to move and optimize is also a little bit handled easier at a small to mid-sized company. So what does the intentional movement look like, excuse me, in practice? We're going to start with the biggest driver that I've been talking about is AI and HR operations. So some of my slides are wordy. As Brianna said, they will be shared. So don't feel like you need to read everything. When most people think of AI and HR, they think about chatbots or like automated resume screening. You often hear that really it's starting in the recruiting processes. So then, but where did those exist? In 2026, it's far more sophisticated than that. Yes, starting at the recruiting is probably the easiest kind of test, if you will, if you're going to try AI in any of your processes, but it's definitely far more sophisticated. And the gap is the gap organizations are using is intentionally, and for those that aren't growing fast. If you join the AI movement, it is important, and I'm preaching to the choir here about compliance, but it's important to ensure that your AI is compliant and you have the right governance in place. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. So today, AI, nearly 60% of executives are using AI intentionally at work. 60%. In HR specifically, AI is currently handling routine scheduling, so maybe some onboarding automation, benefits eligibility, employee questions and answers. One aspect that I have seen in surveys, and I'm personally not a fan of, but I won't go on that soapbox, is managers are using it for coaching suggestions and like handling real-time like performance issues. Not a fan, but that's what we're seeing out there is how AI is currently being utilized in HR operations. Predictive analytics tools are flagging flight risk employees before they are resigning. So being proactive. I would say that's definitely probably more for your advanced AI users. So don't let that overwhelm you if you're not one of those. The ROI, return on investment, for the reality of utilizing AI in our processes is it recreates them. But I want to say recreating processes is assuming you have the right processes in place. If you already have a process that's broken, adding more technology to it is not necessarily the answer. Organizations are, intentionally having to redesign both the humans and the AI interaction. Because of AI, that doesn't mean that the human aspect goes away. I mean, we are on a human resources conversation, right? So human is still there. We are still there. We still have jobs. So don't just layer AI on top of already existing potentially broken processes. Otherwise you're not really getting your best bang for your buck. Technology is going to be the differentiator. The design is that the processes are in the right place, making sure the processes are in the right place, and that utilizing the AI various tools to help automate, help save time, but still keeping that human factor in there. And I talked about governance. So governance, compliance, whatever terminology you want to use. Governance and utilizing AI is a non-negotiable. Or small businesses, large businesses, whatever, whether you have a compliance department or a compliance person or attorney or whatever you have or don't have, doesn't matter. It's you still, no matter what the size is, and if you're going to be using AI, whether it's in HR or other processes, you need to ensure that creating clear, plain language, not the legalese that we all like to see, and the guidelines for your team and how they should use it. A lot of times I'm seeing and I'm providing support to clients on training, like how should you really use AI? What should you not do? When should you not use it? When is it, maybe potentially risky? Again, keeping that human factor in there. So with that being said, I want to flip and ask, how many of you currently have AI policies in place? Let's see, hopefully the Mentimeter flip for y'all. Okay. We'll start getting that. While we're getting those answers in, I will say in a recent survey, there were 68% of chief HR officers that were surveyed ranked AI-related workforce initiatives as their #1 priority for 2026. I'm sure many of you are hearing that from your executives or maybe bring the idea up yourself. Boards, board of directors are also looking at it, depending on what your industry is. Board of directors are looking at it, and they're looking to HR, not necessarily IT, but they're looking to HR. I myself have a rising senior in high school, which is scary to think, but one of the things that we're hearing is courses they should be taking, even whether it's in high school or college, they should be taking is AI. I know cyber was big, and now it's AI. If they don't know AI and they're getting into the workplace, they're behind the ball. So it looks like we have an interesting split here, for sure. But 75 plus, already have policies. 75% of you, and then many of you don't, or maybe you're just in the beginning stages, and that's okay. I do still think, from an HR perspective, is policies around AI are still really trying to be figured out. I feel like it's similar to COVID. Is you changed or you create a policy and the next day it changed, right? I'm sure we all remember those times. But so AI is reshaping not just how we do HR work, it's reshaping the work in itself. So that brings us to our next most significant shift is in talent management. And this is what I mentioned earlier, is the skills-based design. So for decades, organizations have been organizing roles around job titles, org charts. What does that look like? Not just job descriptions, but they've been looking at skills and what do we need from a different lens than what 2026 is looking at skills. So this year, 2026, our skills base means, in practice, what does it actually mean? is hiring based on what someone can actually do, not what degrees titled to their name, not what title they held before in their job, but actually what skills can the person bring to the table. It means having an internal process where your existing employees can be matched to projects, stretch assignments, developmental opportunities to, promote within. How many of our employees always want to, be considered and promote within? How great would that be for morale and culture if we showed, statistics after looking at your skills-based practices, if you show statistics of how many internal promotions happened year over year. I think that would be a huge win for HR. The workforce strategy is also, it's continually updating employee skills profiles. Or do you have the right HR system in place that's capturing that data? I'm currently working with 2 clients and we're implementing new HR systems. One of the pieces we're capturing on the implementation is certifications, educations, skills. That's all stuff you need to capture so that you can look at especially once you're growing and you're getting to, some of y'all are in the 500 plus numbers, is there's no way to know what every single person in your organization, what their skills are. But if you're capturing that stuff up front and then you can analyze it, whether via the system or via an AI tool or via your HR system, that's going to be great. So again, that's that data, knowing who's doing what. So interestingly enough, and I'm going to pause after this because I want y'all to let these numbers sink in. 12% of large organizations have sustained enterprise-wide investment in skills-based practices. Only 12%. 44 are still in the planning and pilot stages, which I feel like this is often one of those HR topics that's kind of always in that planning stage and always gets pushed to the back burner. But when you're looking overall, your performance gaps can be pretty large. Organizations that are doing these skills-based assessments and designs well are 12 times more likely to have the skills they need in the next 3 years. 6 times more likely to catalog, if they're saving this data in their HR platforms, their workforce capabilities. You can use it for many times. A lot of the clients that I support are government contractors. And so having those skills, for example, of who has done XYZ when you're working on a proposal, and they say, how many of your folks are certified in Cisco or whatever it may be, you can pull that data right away if you have it readily handy. If you don't, you're weeding through resumes and using time that could be utilized elsewhere. But again, as a smaller mid-sized company, you have advantages. Begin by auditing what your skills are currently, the employees actually have. Not just what do their job descriptions say, what skills do they actually have? Build a simple internal process for people to, show interest in projects, job share for a little bit, shadow someone else just to learn a different area if they want to, they're interested in that. Give them that internal mobility opportunity. Even taking small steps towards, the skills-based thinking and can have a measurable impact on retention and engagement. I've touched on the AI connections. I'll come back to that. It's accelerating the transition from simple skills tracking to skills intelligence. The ability to actually understand the gaps, identify opportunities, make recommendations, truly know, what you need in a time. Like, are you hiring? Are you out there putting job postings out there for positions for people you have in-house already and you don't even know it? Can you be developing your folks in-house in real time? If you have folks who want to learn a certain certification or skill set and they haven't, but you haven't asked and you don't know what their interests are, how would you know? You're spending money, spending time recruiting people and bringing all these people in when you may have what you need right in-house. So, think about your last 2 to 3 hires, let's say, that didn't work out. I'm sure you have some of them. How much of that do you think was a skills skills mismatch versus a degree or title mismatch. How many was the skills just didn't fit, aside from personality, culture didn't fit, whatever. Skills didn't fit, but they had this fancy title or they had this great degree, but their overall skills, didn't fit what you needed at the time. If you had the right skill-based design in place, that could help that retention. It could lower those recruiting and retraining expenses for sure. So I want us to pause for a moment. I'm going to jump into a case study. So I know y'all are muted, so it's going to be kind of challenging, so bear with me here. So this first case is when AI hiring goes wrong. This is a fun one. So just a high-level overview, and I'll give you a few moments to look at this, but a high-level overview. This particular case we're going to look at focuses on AI governance, bias in hiring tools. Again, we still need that human factor, and skills-based training. Kind of lumped the few topics we talked about so far into one. So this is a mid-size staffing firm that rolls out a new applicant tracking system without the proper oversight. So a VP was super excited, heard about this AI-powered applicant tracking system, and wanted to roll it out with the promise of we can cut time to hire by 40%. We can reduce our recruiter workload and surface those top candidates or high potentials or whatever automatically up. What happened 6 months later? Dun, dun, dun. Issues. So this particular example is a 210, so a little bit on the smaller side, but still small to mid-size. Again, it was a staffing agency, so professional services. They have an HR team of 3 with no dedicated HR tech support. It's kind of a shared duty. And they are in 4 states with a hybrid workforce. Okay, so I pretty much just kind of told you the situation. I won't have you read it, but by all means, if you'd love to read it, go ahead. So what happened after 6 months? Do you think they found issues? I'm going to say they did. They found some issues. So some of those issues were candidates that were at community colleges or a 2-year college or associate's degree were systematically scored lower than the 4-year, like a bachelor's or higher, even if their skills sets were comparable or even better. That's what the AI ATS, applicant tracking system did. That's one of the first statistics they noticed. That candidates with what appeared to be a lower education actually were scored lower, whether they were truly lower in skill set or not. The other aspect is that women who had a career gap, or anyone who had a career gap because they're taking care of an ill family member or something of that nature, they automatically were ranked lower because of that career gap. Another one was that 3 very highly qualified internal employees that applied for promotions were rejected before anybody even actually touched their file. I've seen that happen. I implement applicant tracking systems all the time. We put those knockout questions. I tell clients all the time, knockout questions, they're a good tool, but they are not 100% foolproof, because it can knock out people that are actually qualified, and it can also not knock out people who don't answer the questions accurately or truthfully. The other aspect is legal raised concerns about under the Equal Employment Opportunity, so EEOCs, about AI-assisted hiring, and the point at which the AI-generated applicant tracking system was touching candidates' qualifications before an actual human even touched them, right? So, and then obviously when you have those internal employees who are flagged and rejected, obviously that's a morale impactor, right? So, let me see here. Okay, so just a few things I want to discuss, and these are some questions I popped up. The difference between what operations and finance was saying versus what HR and legal were saying. And so I do have a few of these questions within the Mentimeter tool, so I'm going to flip to those. So the first one is, based on what you've learned so far, about this case, and I did it at a very high level. Happy to go back and let you read through if you wish. But how would you categorize this failure? Is it a technology issue? Is it the process? Is it leadership, or all of the above, do you think? Give a few moments to let y'all chime in there. Yeah, some of you, the rest of you, maybe need to get back to that QR code. Sorry about that. All right, so I think we have the grand slam. Everyone is saying that it is everybody. Oh, someone said technology. Okay. Can be, definitely. I think this also goes back to you can't just put technology on top of a broken process, right? Leadership didn't agree. Leadership jumped to have a win and didn't plan through the win. I'm sure many of us have seen that and maybe even been in that ourselves. So the next question is, what action would you take if you were chief HR officer in this particular client or employer? What actions would you take to address the matter? If anyone has any ideas, please throw them in for sure. But just thinking about that, as you start to roll out, if you're going to roll out any AI type initiatives, you're going to need to think pros, cons, what could happen, proactively plan for that. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but should it happen, like how are you gonna address the matter? So do test runs. Absolutely. I think with any system or any change, you're gonna have to test it. The human factor is 1000% important. That's what a lot of folks miss in the AI, is it still that human factor has to be there, especially when we're dealing with employees. So thank you for those that are answering there. And then overall, what's your opinion on who owns AI governance? Is it IT? Is it HR? Is it both? I've heard this debate live in clients. Who owns it? I think, from my perspective, it's both. And so I know myself as an HR professional, I may have a very technical savvy brain, but I am by no means an IT expert. And I'm sure the IT experts would say by no means are they HR, process policy experts either. So I do think it tends to lean more towards both than not, for sure. So thank you for weighing in there. So even if you have the best skills-based strategy, it will not work if your employees are disengaged or upset because they didn't get selected. The human side is very important to any optimization. The employee experience and the employee's well-being, is also very important. So that's what we're going to jump to next, is discussing the employee experience and well-being overall. Employee experience and well-being is now a business performance metric. Not just, and this shouldn't be a perks or benefits afterthought, right? It should be an upfront performance metric. So in 2026, according to a survey completed by Deloitte, 68% of workers report a decrease in well-being from the organizational change over the past year. Another 60% say that their workload increased. 58 felt less relevant or left behind. So there's a poll completed by Gallup said that 20%, only 20% of U.S. workers felt strongly connected to their organization's culture. And it's not just doing an employee engagement survey and not doing any actions or not taking any actions to address it. I hear that all the time, is why are you going to do an employee engagement survey, or why are you going to check and see, what our experience is like if you're not going to do anything with the answers? I'm sure you've experienced that yourself. The well-being is, well-being aspect as operations. It's not just programming. So, the shift organizations need is from the well-being of a program, like yoga classes, mental health apps, free snacks, It's not just a pizza party here and there, but it's the overall well-being that really is important. For lean HR teams, if you're a team of department of one or department of a few, lean HR teams is especially critical. If you have unclear manual processes, it creates stress and accumulates, that accumulates quietly, as well as expenses and stuff that for your top performers. So utilizing the tools you can to optimize and streamline, automate, whatever term you want to use, will help with all that. But I don't have to say that tailoring benefits to each life stage is important. I mean, we got our benefits brokers that are supporting and hosting this event. Thank you. So I'm sure if you need to chat with benefits and improving your benefits for your employees, you got great support here with Brian and team. The other aspect is the flexibility, whether it's due to COVID, whether it's generational differences, or both. Workforce flexibility is evolving beyond the hybrid, right? So many people are now coming back into the office, are requiring it more. So many, are working and trying out a 4-day-a-week pilot. I hear that even schools are going to do 12 months. Not a fan, but 4-day-a-week pilot and seeing how that works. Outcome is outcome-based performance systems are measuring as people's, productivity. Do you get more out of your folks, or do you think you got more out of your folks during COVID when everyone was home, or less? I don't know. I think it's probably both. It's remote or hybrid or whatever you want to call it is good for some, but it's not good for all. Organizations that offer like a genuine flexibility while maintaining the performance and culture will win at the talent competition in the next decade. Those, that are requiring folks to go back 5 days a week from being home, or even go back 3 days a week, I'm hearing and seeing with some of my clients is that the employees aren't happy with that. You can't please everybody, but that's one of the aspects overall of the employee experience and well-being that we're going to have to focus on, and allowing flexibility and trying to prevent that burnout where possible. So let's see. Are we ready for case 2? Okay, so let's look at case study 2. Rebuilding an employee's well-being. So let me give you a high level again. There's a lot in this slide for sure. Take a moment to read. But at an overview, this case is going to be focusing on the well-being systems. So HR tech consolidation, paid transparencies, and the big law coming out and being transparent about what you're paying, and then HR that under the resource constraints, so budget, people, whatever. For example, this case particularly is for a nonprofit healthcare organization that keeps throwing perks at burnout crisis, but nothing's sticking to that wall. So they have 375 employees, again, nonprofit healthcare. Their HR team is 4 people, and they have a part-time HRIS administrator. Their turnover in 2024 hit 31%, and that was nearly double what it was the pre-pandemic. Exit interviews are, have a common theme they're hearing. We're exhausted, we're underwhelmed, there's no career path. So how did the leadership respond in this particular case? They did a monthly Wellness Wednesday email. They did communicate about their employee assistance program, which I feel a lot of employees don't know about, that they have an employee assistance program that fewer than 8% are utilizing. They offered a yoga class, and then they threw that fancy pizza party. So this all came after there was a new CHRO who had just been newly promoted after they were in a HR business partner role for 6 months. And so the pressure that they were receiving from the board of directors was to fix the people problem, which I think often we see as HR professionals. So here they were trying to figure out what is the best way to use the reduced budget you have because there's a cut budget, but then also still incentivize, still keep that employee well-being, all that at the top of the forefront. The overall career growth and career ladder, I think, is something that I hear a lot is we don't have a career ladder. Nobody knows how you can move up or not. Again, going back to that skills-based setting, what are the career steps you have that your organization that can help? Do you have multiple platforms that employees have to go here for benefits? They got to go here to see their paycheck. They got to go here for this or here for that. Can you consolidate, not only make HR's life easier, but also make your employees' lives easier? So with this, again, here we have, just like the last one, our operations and finance view, and then our HR and legal view. They often don't match, but we're all one team, so they should. So I'm going to jump into just a few questions here on, based on this situation, how would you handle it? So what would you address first on a reduced budget to help with employee engagement and well-being? Do you have any ideas of what you would utilize first or would do first if you had a cut budget? Anybody? Can you guys see the focus groups? That's a good idea. Yep, easy one. Easy ones are always good. Training, yep. All good input. Thank you, everyone. All good. Yep, absolutely. So can we balance workloads? Are there, trust building leadership habits that we need to work on? How do we address burnout? Is there something that needs to be redesigned, whether it's teams, whether it's the career ladder, something that needs to be redesigned? These are all things, that we can do without, much budget you need, right? So roundtables, focus groups are definitely taking the win on that one. Awesome. If you were leading this calls and you said, hey, we have so many platforms, they're all manual, yada, yada. What would be your business case? It could be the one sentence thing for a single HRIS platform. It could be one word, really. I'm doing this right now for 2 clients, as I mentioned. And I think, it's painful going through the implementation, no doubt, but it's going to be much better than currently. Sanity. That's awesome. Yep. Redundancies. Getting rid of those redundancies. Manual processes. Too many. Consistency, efficiency. Absolutely. Yeah, you guys, if I ever getting it. One-stop shop. Yep, that single sign-on. Single sign-on to everything you need under one roof, if you will. It's great. Absolutely. Thanks, all. Appreciate it. So moving on to our next of our 7 topics is the data compliance and HR technology. We've kind of been talking about the HR technology already and, having an all-in-one HR platform. So one of the biggest barriers to HR optimization is the fragmented technology, right? Like I mentioned earlier, payroll in one system, benefits goes to Employee Navigator or something else. Time tracking's on a spreadsheet. Love that. Onboarding is just an email in someone's box, right? And there's little to no internal communications. You have folks sitting all over the U.S. You may have folks sitting on customer site. They're not getting any communication from the company, right? So how do we work on that? So that patchwork and piecing all these pieces together is costing more than you think. It's the errors, the admin time, missed insights, missed culture aspect. So consolidation is a word we saw in the last slides. Some of y'all's input is consolidation. In 2026, organizations are moving decisively toward unified HR technology systems. You can't have that meaningful skills intelligence without a system that's tracking what your people are doing. What are their skills? You can't predict turnover without integrated engagement data. You know, why are folks leaving? What are the trends you're seeing? You know, going to compliance, pay transparency. I know we just hit July, we just passed July 1 not long ago when so many different laws came out across the various states, including Virginia that I'm in. But pay transparency, we're seeing more and more states are putting that out. So, if you're ready or not, you might as well proactively be ready. But for the smaller organizations, that can tend to create an urgency to get your, compensation philosophy documented, salary ranges set, your communication strategy clear. Organizations tend to, which is not uncommon, react, right? Be reactive. That's why I always say be proactive. Scrambling to post ranges when the law comes up, right? Do you even have the salary ranges in place? A lot of times they don't. So those of you, can you give me a thumbs up? I know you're muted. Can you give me a thumbs up if you actually have a legit full compensation philosophy in place? Whether it's salary ranges, merit, like how do you handle all this stuff? Who has those in place? All right, Heather. Yeah. Wow. There's some good one. Okay. I give you guys claps there. Thank you. That's awesome. So compliance automation for lean teams. Again, whether you have that one person team or you're a few, is the compliance landscape is getting more complex, not less, right? The laws are changing, political administration changes. There's always something changing. The AI and hiring regulations, the data privacy rules, workforce policies, manually tracking a lot of this as a smaller HR team is increasingly unattainable. Compliance automation and platforms can automatically update our policies, so to be read, flag documentation gaps, and maintain audit readiness without a full-time compliance assistant to do so. Organizations that are under 500 employees, I know that maybe a little less than half of you, is one of the highest ROIs available is less manual, many tools to consider. So then HR and IT together is predictions are saying that HR and IT will be fully merged within 5 years in many organizations. Now, I don't want to hear any of y'all say that IT people are different. Because they will probably say the same about us. But HR leaders need to develop that, fluency in data security, right? What does AI mean? I personally, not gonna lie, I was not a fan of AI until I became certified in AI for business, and it really opened my eyes to understand if you use it right, if you have the right, governance in place, stuff like that, it can really be a great tool, but you still keep that human factor in. And so it did definitely, that certification really changed my view on AI. But I too was like, nah, I don't think I want to use AI. And there's definitely still things I wouldn't recommend. But on a daily basis, just think on the top of your head, how many systems do you as an HR professional have to log into to do your job? Or how many systems do your employees log into to do various aspects that they need to do throughout the year that relates to the employee life cycle benefits, paychecks, all that stuff. So how many systems out there do y'all have? Hopefully it's not too many. Sheila, let's just say a lot. Okay, fair enough, Sheila. I get it. Thank you. Fair enough. So let's zoom out now, and let's take a look at what the top HR leaders are focused on for this year. And this may be some of you, and this you'll see is from I4CP research, right? But based on this recent survey of hundreds of senior HR executives, their top 4 priorities include priority 1, AI, workforce initiatives. Priority 2, leadership development. Granted, this is not just a 2026 trend. Priority 3, strategic workforce planning. And what was number 4 is succession planning. So touching on a little bit each, I'm not going to beat the dead horse here, and let me look at my time. not going to beat the dead horse here, but CHROs have listed AI-related workforce initiative as their top priority. 67% believe implementing AI agents is critical to compete today in the market, whether you're small, big, whatever you are, it's critical. The leadership development is a consistent priority, right? For years, leadership development is about enabling networks, not managing the hierarchies, right? Having that skills base. What does that career ladder look like? Not who and where do you fit on an organization chart? It's not really about that anymore. The most effective leaders won't just manage teams, not just the people management, because let's be honest, some people are not good people managers, but they'll also orchestrate collaboration across boundaries. That strategic workforce planning, right? Can AI help redesign with that? So before you're asking for more headcount or resources, like I talked about earlier in the call, teams must demonstrate that they cannot get what they want done just by using AI. It's no longer about headcount. It's now about deconstructing roles into tasks and understanding where AI can augment and replace work and investing in human talent where it creates value. For the succession planning, this is not surprising to me. Over my 10 plus years of consulting, only 27% of high performing organizations believe that they have competent successors ready for executive level roles. We did that readiness, ready in 1 to 3 years, 5 years. So many times I have that the 1 to 3 is nobody. Nobody is ready there. But organizations building success talent pools rather than focus on the single successor candidates, they have significantly more agility when transitions, will inevitably happen. Whether you're planning for it or not, transition is going to happen. So there, obviously there is a constraint that we see is resources and budget. Who isn't struggling with that? 32% of the CHROs surveyed anticipated budget cuts in 2026 compared to only 21% who thought there would be increases. We cannot simply do more with less. It must be fundamentally work differently, right? We must automate, we must optimize where we can. But again, as I've mentioned many times, that's not just adding a technology or a program onto redesigned systems. You got to make sure the processes are right, and then you can add that to help. Just by, I guess we'll do give me a thumbs up. How many of you feel that your managers currently have the skills to lead a hybrid or AI augmented team effectively? Okay, we got one. There we go. We'll get some more. Okay, not many, but how many of you have formalized programs to actually close that gap? So thumbs down. Thanks, Amy. So you see there's a huge gap there. That's your opportunity. One of many opportunities, but that's your opportunity, right? So let's talk about model shifts here at the end. Getting ready to close out. Am I getting on time, y'all? Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, I'll go. All right. Everything we discussed, AI, skills, experience, technology is converging to produce a fundamental shift in how organizations think about their workforce. So traditionally, workforce plan has asked, how many people do you need in each role? The new model asks, what work needs to be done and who or what is best equipped to do it? Organization charts, they're beginning to resemble, I'm not sure, the skills gap, I'm not sure. Employees and capabilities flows are dynamically to where they needed rather than sitting in a fixed box in a hierarchy. The AI agents are evolving beyond just a reactive tool. They're able to be more proactive, collaborating to schedule meetings, draft correspondence. We should have the final read, draft correspondence. Questions organizations need to answer is now like which decision stays with humans and which can be safely designated to an AI tool. That boundary will be defined like with any kind of governance you roll out. Moving people across teams and projects and roles, the primary obstacle there is managers are hoarding talent rather than actively rotating. So they're hoarding their high potentials rather than allowing them to grow or experience other things, and the same time having other departments and managers be able to experience their skill set. So building a culture where internal mobility is celebrated and expected is one of the highest leveraging things we can do as a leader to work on retention, engagement, organizational agility. So, everything we've discussed here comes down to 6 priorities. So here's your action plan for 2026 and beyond, because just because we're in the middle of the year, hard to believe, doesn't mean you still don't have time. But these are just some maybe key things you can take away. Governing your AI, create a one-pager. Talk to your leaders about where could they use AI. Talk to your leaders about what they feel. Some of you have said you hadn't even started it yet. Talk to them and see kind of what are their thoughts on it. How much do they actually understand AI? How much do you understand AI? Right? As I mentioned, I didn't understand it until I took a 12-week certification class. I didn't understand it. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't. Before your next job posting goes live, what does this person actually do on a day-to-day basis? What can we teach them? What cert can we get them that may help them? So audit your current employees, their actual skills, not just their job titles. When you consolidate, like looking at consolidate your HR technology, and as some of you mentioned a lot, if you're juggling more than 3 to 4 systems in your workflows, that should be a signal that it's time to evaluate. There's so many platforms out there. Yes, none of them are great. I mean, not all of them are perfect. Probably no one's perfect, but there are some very great tools out there. So see what works for you. I did a search for a client. I went through 6 different ones to fit their specific pain points. I think I made a good choice. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll see September 1. But embed, then the other one is embed your employee well-being systems within, right? So it's not a new benefit. A process may fix something, an automation, a workload, rebalance, manager trainings. Prepare for pay transparency. I'm not going to talk about that as much. That's just being proactive on all the laws that are coming out, and then develop your leaders. It sounds like we definitely have folks on the call here that need to develop their managers. That is very common. I see that often. I do a management 101 series, but I know I'm at time, so I don't want to cut. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I do encourage you to pick 2 or 3 actions that feel good, get that win for HR, show that we are valued. We certainly are. If any of the priorities you originally listed have changed, any that you need help with, reach out, let me know. Trusted HR Synergies, happy to help. And I do appreciate your time today. I do appreciate the opportunity to be a presenter here. I hope you found value. I will turn it back to Brianna to go over the recording coming out and the credits here for you. Thanks, Brianna.
Perfect. Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate you sharing your time and expertise on HR optimization 2026. And thank you to everyone who joined. We appreciate it. Hope you found the session valuable. The recording and credits will come out later in an email. Feel free to follow up with us via email if you have any questions as well. Thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to put a little survey in the chat as well. If you could give some feedback, that would be amazing. It will also be in the email if you don't have time to do it right now.
Thanks. And if you want to connect, there's my email, website, and LinkedIn QR code as well. So happy to connect. And if you have any questions, shoot them my way. Sorry I didn't get to questions, but I appreciate everyone joining. Thank you.
No,
Thanks,
Amanda, thank you. That was really great. I love the engagement. I love the thought starters, the survey, the pulse surveys that you were able to do. It really added a lot to the discussion. I know that really comes down to making sure that we are engaged with what's happening. So much happening with AI and the optimization that you speak to. So your expertise was really a breath of fresh air for us in this crazy, complex world that we live in as it relates to HR. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Look for the recording and credits and all that good stuff. And also make sure you check out corpsyn.com and the events that we have for future. We have a couple of compliance events coming up. And as always, we try to hear from you and listen to that feedback and put it into action for our thought leadership. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.